Today, let's talk about something that's quietly shaping everything in your organization: how we think. More specifically, we'll explore why mental models resist updates, even when the world around us clearly changes, and why, in the age of AI, this resistance can hold your entire organization back. I once worked with a product team that believed one thing above all else: customers always want more features. In essence, they had shaped their thinking to prioritize quantity, not purpose. It was part of their DNA. Planning, retros, roadmap meetings, it all revolved around how to deliver more functionality, not better outcomes for their customers. And for a long time, it worked. Customers asked for features, the team built them, everyone was happy until they weren't. Despite releasing more features than ever, customer satisfaction began to drop. Support tickets surged and churn spiked. The data told a clear story, but the team wasn't saying anything coherent. Even when customers literally said it's too complicated, the team interpreted that as we need more sophisticated features to simplify things. They couldn't absorb the contradiction. Why? Because when your brain is running a deeply embedded mental model, conflicting information doesn't just sound wrong, it feels threatening if you can hear it at all. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's how our brains work, perfectly natural. Daniel Kahneman's model of System 1 and System 2 thinking explains this. System 1 is fast, automatic, and trained by repetition. It gets you home without thinking about the route, whereas System 2 is deliberate, effortful, analytical, part of the brain that questions assumptions and updates beliefs. And System 2 burns more energy. The brain, being efficient, will always prefer the shortcuts of System 1 unless something forces a switch. Most work environments, especially under pressure, they reward System 1 outputs because of speed, efficiency, predictability. And the more we optimize for those metrics, the more we reinforce the very models that resist change. Every time you repeat a thought or behavior, it strengthens a neural pathway. That pathway becomes a default. So when your new information arrives, it doesn't just challenge your idea, it disrupts your internal sense of safety. And this doesn't just happen in individuals, it happens at organizational level. Mental models get encoded into how companies operate. Every policy, dashboard, and job description reflects these assumptions. Every tool teaches and reinforces behavior. If your dashboard only shows efficiency metrics, it sends a message. This is what matters here. Everything else, we can talk about it or just ignore it. This is what I call System 1 groupthink. When an entire team or an entire company operates on shared assumptions that no one is actively questioning, the thinking becomes invisible, automatic. Nobody's actually thinking. They're just everybody's on autopilot. That's exactly what happened with the feature heavy team. Their early success became a pattern. That pattern became policy. The policy became culture, and the culture became their personal identity. So when new data arrived, like churn, they didn't adjust the model, they defended it. That's not a leadership flaw, that's a survival instinct. And it's why success can become a trap. Very same habits that created today's results may block tomorrow's relevance. And disrupting those habits, it feels risky unless the environment is psychologically safe to do so. Let's pause there. Because this is the root of why traditional change management often fails. Change isn't just about presenting better facts. When someone presents data that contradicts our mental models, it creates dissonance. The brain doesn't say, "Oh, goody, thanks, I needed that." It says, "Warning, error, threat, painful." It is quite literally a form of mental pain that requires the brain to rewire itself to accommodate the new information. And that rewiring, that never happens quickly. That's by design. This is why we defend bad ideas harder when they're challenged. It's less energy expensive and less painful. From a biological standpoint, resistance to change makes perfect sense. We cherry pick confirming evidence, ignore the rest, and polish a story that reinforces what we already believe. And great leaders aren't immune. especially when identity is tied to the belief, like being the efficiency expert. If, if evidence now shows that relentless efficiency creates fragility, that's not just an idea at risk, it's a personal brand, it's an assault. And when someone challenges that belief in public, oh, the amygdala lights up, heart rate spikes, stress hormones surge, cognitive functions narrow. That's when you get fight, flight, or freeze right in the boardroom with everyone watching. And it gets worse. Groups where that we rely on social proofs and social acceptance, confirmation. If the CEO continues to emphasize efficiency above all else, who's going to be the first to talk about resilience? If no one challenges the model, we assume it must still be right. So what happens? You send people to agile training. They come back energized, inspired, ready to change everything. And within weeks, they quietly revert back to the old ways because the organizational immune system rejected the foreign belief. This is why individual transformation isn't enough. We have to create environments where belief change, uh, 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 changing is something that we welcome, that it's safe to change, making it visible. We practice every day. It becomes part of what we do, part of what we who we are. It's not something scary. It's second nature. And that's where Agile values, principles, and practices offer far more than delivery frameworks and training certificates. They are cognitive retraining mechanisms. For example, take retrospectives. They're not just for recapping what went well or poorly, they're a structured innovation opportunity, so that you can challenge your assumptions. They invite you to open your mind, everyone's mind, and see what could be changed, what could be improved. Instead of asking, why did we miss this deadline? Try asking, what did we assume that didn't hold true? Because we went in believing we'd succeed. Something about our beliefs was off. What was it? Let's find out. That subtle shift from behavior to belief activates system to thinking. It encourages teams to examine how we think, not how they act. And that's a muscle every organization needs, especially with AI. Experimentation frameworks take it further. When teams frame work by hypotheses, we believe X will lead to Y because of Z. They surface assumptions that can be tested. If it turns out they're wrong, that's not failure. That's learning. That's course correction. In traditional environments, being wrong is shameful. In adaptive ones, being wrong is valuable. Now, add visual management. When you treat assumptions as first class citizens, logging them, tracking them, displaying them for everyone to see, you bring beliefs into the open. Sometimes use assumption cards on their Kanban boards. They tag each item with what they believe must be true for success and how confident they are in that belief. Then they validate, revise, or discard as the workflow unfolds. That's adaptive. That's flexible, agile. That's not just about tracking tasks. It's about making thinking visible. And thinking more than doing is what determines whether your AI integration, agile transformation, or product strategy succeeds. And none of this works without psychological safety. Let's be clear, psychological safety isn't about avoiding discomfort. It's actually quite the opposite. It's about creating a space where the uncomfortable truth is allowed to surface. Without it, people hide their uncertainty. They perform agreement. They protect the model rather than improve it. This is where leadership matters most. If leaders model curiosity instead of certainty and vulnerability instead of performance, teams will follow. When a leader says, "I used to believe this, now I'm reconsidering," it gives people, everyone, permission to think. That's what the four pillars of Agile are really about: context, mindfulness, respect, trust. These aren't just values, they're conditions for updating belief safely. They support the continuous improvement that makes real transformation possible. And when it comes to changing mental models, Repetition is everything. It doesn't happen on the first shot. That's why small, frequent updates work better than big, dramatic ones. This is why Kaizen works and why Kaikaku, the radical overhaul, so often fails. And it's incredibly risky. We need Kaizen, incremental, continuous improvement, because the brain isn't wired for sudden rewiring. It's wired for iterative adaptation. That's safer. Long term, it keeps us alive. So, what tools help? Start with premortems. Ask 6 months from now, this failed. What went wrong? It reveals unspoken assumptions and surfaces hidden concerns early. Assumption logs. For any major decision, ask what must be true for this to succeed. Write it down, track it, review it. Make that a normal part of your cadence. You can also have perspective rotation. Have someone argue the opposite of what they believe. Invite fictional personas into planning. Like, for example, ask, what would Amazon do? Even switching rooms for your, if you're always having your meetings in the same room over and over, you change it. When you change the environment, that can be enough to break the entrenched thinking. You can also do what if questions. What if this belief was true in the past, but not anymore? What if the opposite is more useful now? These kind of questions invite exploration. It's not about confrontation. And if you end up at the same place, that's validation. It's all useful. And then there's AI mirror sessions. You want to feed anonymized transcripts or decision logs to AI. Ask it what it sees. Your team may discover that 80% of decisions are made by the same three people, despite having a flat structure and always making genuine efforts to include others in the discussions. They're not lying, just can't see it until the mirror reflects it back. When AI serves as a neutral observer, a mirror, it invites inquiry without judgment. So let's bring it together. AI now makes it possible to design systems that are both efficient and resilient. That used to be either impossible or cost prohibitive. Efficient systems were brittle, resilient systems were slow. We're evolving past that thanks to AI. Yet, if your mental model still treats them as trade offs, you'll build systems that underperform on both fronts. The key is moving from either or type of thinking to both and type of thinking. Ask integrative questions. How might we deliver faster without losing quality? How might we increase structure and increase adaptability? This mindset needs to be visible in your organizational rhythms. Build in reflection, not as a special event, but as part of the rhythm. Normalize what's wrong. Celebrate people who update assumptions, not just those who hit milestones. Because in complex environments, the ability to update is more valuable than the ability to execute. Execution is peritable. Learning, that's what's scalable. That's why your future doesn't depend on having the right answers. It depends on developing the capability to evolve them. And with AI accelerating everything around us, that evolution needs to be fast, deliberate, and safe. That's what makes Agile indispensable. It's not just how we deliver, it's how we think, how we adapt, how we evolve at the speed of change, AI change. So, if you want to lead in the age of AI, the question isn't, do we have the right answers? The real question is, are we building the capacity to rethink on the fly, as we're building it many times? And if that's the kind of leadership you want to cultivate, grounded in awareness, flexibility, and continuous evolution, then share your stories and challenges. And let us know in the comments how we can help you build that kind of organization that doesn't just adapt to the future, it shapes it. And if you'd like to learn more about 6 little words that secretly sabotage workplace trust, click one of these. I'll be happy to tell you all about it.